In the township of Ngalu, where the baobabs wear crowns of weaverbird nests and the wind carries the salt of the distant Calabash coast, there lived a quiet woman named Tisola. When her son was born, she never once let water touch his skin. No morning rinses in a gourd, no evening wash by the hearth. She wrapped him in cotton and love, and dusted him with camwood and fragrant she smoke. At first, people laughed. Poor Tisola, they said, so careless she forgets the most common ways. But when days folded into weeks and the child's skin still never shimmered with a single drop, whispers turned to barbed talk. Some said she was lazy. Some said she trafficked in darkness. Children were warned, don't cross Tisola's threshold. Even so, Tisola kept her peace. She burned sweet myrrh in her room and rubbed her baby with oils that smelled of cola and rain, yet never once brought water to him. Her nearest neighbor, Kofo, whose eyes were always wandering other people's fields, fanned the suspicion with lies. I saw the boy hover above Tisola's mat, she swore one night, and I've seen her fling dead birds from her courtyard. Though her claims were thinner than Harmattan mist, Kofo's tongue was sharp, and the elders, fearing scandal, drove Tisola and her son from Ngalu. Kofo's smile shone as they left. She had long coveted Tisola's narrow but fertile strip of land that lay closest to the river reeds. Tisola carried her boy, Kale, into the thorn savanna beyond town and built a small round home from red earth and reeds. There the child grew. By the third rainy season, Kale's shoulders spread like a young lion's. By the fifth, he could lift stones that would have made two strong men wheeze. Though water never kissed him, his skin glowed as if it had eaten the sun. Never go back to Ngalu, Tisola told him. The wind there still blows crooked. Kale nodded, loyal as a drumbeat. One dawn, as Kale stalked guinea fowl among the acacias, he heard someone scream. He slipped through the thorn brush and peered from behind a termite mound toward the fields beyond Ngalu's boundary. A young woman was being scolded by her stepmother, Penda, a woman whose words could strip bark from a tree. Clear this entire ground before moonrise, Penda snarled, pointing at a tangle of briars, stumps, and thorn. The girl Yara wept quietly but bent to work. When night laid its indigo cloth over the savannah, Yara hobbled home with blistered palms and a heart full of dread. Kale waited, then stepped into the field. His hands, honed by solitude, worked with a rhythm older than stories. By morning, the briars were gone, the stumps pried loose. The soil lay clean as a polished gourd. Yara returned, saw the miracle, and sank to her knees, thanking the maker who sees secrets. Penda stormed out, sniffed the earth, squinted for footprints. Who helped you? She hissed. Yara shook her head. No one, Penda's mouth curled. Lies pleased her because they made truth look small. From the savannah's fringe, Kale watched and swallowed his name. He remembered his mother's command, do not step into Ngalu, so he kept to the edges. Each time Penda tossed a mountain at Yara, Kale came at night and turned it into a hill. Yara rose at dawn to find the world a little kinder than it had been. One afternoon, Penda's cruelty grew teeth. She pushed Yara into the moonwell, a deep cold basin fed by underground veins. Yara couldn't swim. Her cries tumbled into the water like scattered beads. Kale heard her and ran. He did not think. He leapt. The moment the water touched him, the moonwell shivered. It sighed, then emptied with a roar that shook the palm fronds. Cracks spidered along the banks. Reeds wilted. Kale dragged Yara to the clay rim, terrified of what he had done. He bolted for the savannah, heart thundering like hooves. Tisola met him at the door, reading the fear in his bones. The water fled, Kale gasped. Even the rushes withered. Mother, why? Tisola laid a hand on his shoulder. Before you were born, a desert wanderer came to Ngalu. He said the spirits that nest in rivers would hunt you, for your destiny is to undo them. He told me water will not have you until you meet the one whose joy spills from her eyes like the first rain. Only then can the land be made right. But if I ever yielded to people's taunts and washed you, the river spirits would snatch your breath. She closed her eyes. I chose their scorn over your grave. Back in Ngalu, panic swelled like a drum. People clustered at the empty moonwell. The spirits are angry, they cried. Penda hurried to the well with ash in her mouth, fearing Yara's body would betray her. When she reached the rim and saw only cracked clay, a cold shadow walked its fingers down her back. That night, she crept to Yara's sleeping mat with a rope. But the air rose suddenly, turning wild as a whirlwind. Penda slammed against the wall, and Dawn found her eyes milky and her limbs stiff as carved wood. The township buzzed with blame. "Yara is a witch," Penda's daughter hissed, whipping the crowd into a fever. Stones flew toward the square where Yara knelt, begging for sense. The sky dimmed though the sun still hung above. Thunder rolled like a lion clearing its throat. Then the mask keeper of Ngalu, the old custodian of drums and stories, lifted his staff. "Fools," he cried. "See what comes of feeding on rumor? The land waits on this girl's joy, not her pain. Until her heart is mended, our fields will be empty bowls." Shame chilled the township. People dropped their stones and bowed, offering cloth, honey, and their own apologies. Even King Darin removed his bronze circlet and set it at Yara's feet. "Take my seat if it mends your heart," he said, but Yara's eyes were still heavy with old rain. "Your gifts are fine," she whispered, "but they cannot make right what cruelty broke." Days passed. The sky kept its dust color. The millet sulked in the ground. The moonwell was a wound. Penda's daughter watched all this and festered. "Why should Yara have the praise?" she snarled one night. "If I unseat her, the people will adore me instead." She shadowed Yara to the cracked well's edge, where Yara lifted her hands and said softly, "Hidden helper of my nights." "Thank you." Penda's daughter darted back to fetch elders, hissing that Yara spoke with the dark. They arrived as Yara's words floated over the basin. Before the elders could spit their fear, a figure stepped from the acacias, broad-shouldered, dust on his ankles, eyes steady as a calabash balanced on a dancer's head. "Enough," Kaylee said. Penda's daughter lunged with a blade and froze mid-strike as if woven into a spider's web. Kaylee told them who he was, the child they had exiled with his mother, the one who cleared Yara's fields and pulled her from the moonwell. The mask keeper nodded, voice threaded with relief. "It is him," he murmured, "the one the Wanderer spoke of." Tasola emerged then, leaning on a staff polished by years. She told the truth, of the warning, of the river spirits who would have stolen her son, of choosing jeers over grief. As she spoke, her gaze snagged on the bracelet on Penda's daughter's wrist, a braid of copper and cowrie shells. Kofo's work? Tasola knew it. No one else in Ngalu twisted copper quite like that. The circle closed with a hiss. Kofo's hunger for land had started the first stone rolling. Now it had crushed the throwers. King Darin stepped forward and bowed low to Tasola and Kaylee. "When a righteous person is driven away," he said, "and later proved innocent, our law says the throne owes them shelter and honor." He offered them the courtyard nearest the palace gate, the one that smelled of lemons after rain. As for Penda and her daughter, they were sent beyond the ridges to live alone with their echoes, to learn how it feels when your own words are your only company. Kofo, stripped of her lies, lost her claim to Tasola's old plot and was made to weed the elders' yam beds until the moonwell filled again. It did not happen at once. Wounds do not peel themselves like plantain. But one evening, as Kayla and Yara walked the rim of the basin, he told her, in a voice shy as a nightjar, that he had watched her bravery from the thorn shadows and that her morning songs had made the savannah seem like a friend. Yara laughed, and it wasn't a careful laugh, but the kind that breaks open the ribs and shakes light into dark rooms. A single tear fell from her cheek to the dust. The ground drank it like a starving child. The sky brightened. Frogs woke and began their orchestra. Water lifted in the moonwell with a sound like a gourd filling. Reed stood up straight. Children whooped and tumbled. The scent of wet earth rose, rich, forgiving, alive. Kaylee smiled back, and the water did not flee. The river spirits shifted deeper, their brittle power dissolved by what they could not grasp. Joy freely given. In time, Kaylee and Yara married beneath a canopy of woven palm fronds. Ngalu prospered, not from charm or fear, but from a lesson carved into its bones. Rumor is a shadow that eats the feet of the one who follows it, and mercy is a calabash that never empties. Old women still tell it at the hearth when rain drums on the roofs. The boy the water could not claim, the girl whose gladness healed the earth, and the mother who chose love over applause. And when children scoop water from the moonwell, they do so gently, so they won't disturb the quiet joy that brims there still.